guess who's back? Back again. It's the real Slim Shady. Not so slim. We're going to talk about fintech innovation for inclusion and economic growth, which is interesting because I've just been in Amsterdam this week, and the whole conversation was about financial inclusion and where we are and where we're going. And I said earlier that you can have everybody on the earth available to now make a payment, trade and transact wherever they are because of the technology we have today, even making a payment from the top of Mount Everest. But rather than giving my views, I guess to begin with, we need to have our panelists introduce themselves and maybe give a few opening words about this theme of inclusion and innovation and technology and where we are and where we're going. And I don't actually know all of your institutions, but obviously a national bank, one of the biggest banks in Moldova, is easy. USAID I don't really understand, so I'll be interested to hear more about that. So let's hand over.
Thank you. So my name is Eugen Ghiletchi, and I'm currently the component lead for financial sector reforms within a USAID project. The project is called Moldova Institutional and Structural Reforms Activity, and we have a pretty large portfolio of activities. We're mainly trying to support the government in the reform agenda to ensure the economic growth is inclusive and it's as fast as possible. One of the components of the project is the financial sector reform, and this is where I come in. And
sorry,
that's all right. Is the screen all right?
Let's go on my questions.
Okay, good. So as part of our activity, we're closely partnering with the National Bank in Moldova, in a number of endeavors, and I'm sure we're going to touch on many of those. However, we have a very simple objective in our activity. We want to see new financial services in Moldova, and we want to see as many people have access to these financial services. So this is why our program is focusing on a few very large pillars. First, support innovation in partnership with the National Bank of Moldova, promote financial literacy together with the National Bank of Moldova and other key players in Moldova, and also ensure that in this entire process, consumers are well protected. Because with the advance of technology, it's very clear that the risks, especially for those who are not digitally literate or financially literate, are also increasing. So briefly speaking, this is kind of like the main directions of our activity, but I'm sure we're going to touch on many of this throughout the conversation.
As Eugen's mentioned National Bank of Moldova several times, Vadim, can you explain a bit more about the project?
It's not a project.
How are you working together?
It's a process.
A process.
Continuously. Because it's not only one project, it's a new vision of Central Bank of Moldova, it's National Bank. It's a vision, we created a Fintech department for innovations. The idea is that Central Bank of Moldova will be a driver of innovation in Moldova, of course in collaboration with partners, with the donors, to bring new technologies, new types of payments, new types of all kinds of services for e-com, for businesses. So we do innovations and collaboration.
Thank you. And as for Aliona, in terms of MISRA Bank, what's the involvement you have in and view you have on financial inclusion?
Hello. I came to the pink one lastly. I was happy that it's green mic. Hello, everybody. With most of you I'm already known. I know some of you personally, some of them we met at different events, and happy to be here. My name is Aliona. I am from maib. probably it's not necessary to present maib because everybody knows that we are one of leaders in the market. I represent the retail segment in the bank, and today mostly I will speak about physical persons and access to finance from this point of view. In maib, we believe that financial inclusion is one of our priorities, and considering this, we organize ourselves in a way to make access to finance on all business lines. When we speak about physical persons, when we speak about SMEs, and when we speak about big corporate clients. And depending on the segment, we go already in order to understand, based on lifestyle and type of a business, which kind of products, which services could give and trigger more access to finance. We are very happy to say that recently we launched online onboarding, and this was with great support from authorities that this legislation was approved. It was a great effort inside the bank, but today we have already this option, and clients from Moldova receive full digital experience when onboarding in the bank. This is not this is a jump, in fact, in financial inclusion. We are very happy also, by the way, who wants can try, because here at the conference we have our team and they are ready to help, who wants to try our digital onboarding. Also, we're very happy that inside the bank, for physical persons, we give access not only to mature population, but also kids can join from early years, from 7 years old, they can join already the bank. And I am very happy to hear about financial education here, because this is the most important step when we work with our clients, explaining them how to use finances in order to grow with us and in order to use our services. And also we are very happy that our SME also have access to digital onboarding and they continue to grow with us. This is our perspective. Later I will tackle more detailed some issues. Thank you.
Bless you. So I'm not a fan of formal panels. I like to just talk and chat, and feel free to talk to each other during the discussion. You can ignore me if you want. But I guess the first thing is, why bother with financial inclusion? And what's the impact of financial inclusion on the economy in Moldova? Why focus upon this?
So first,
you got the...
Yeah, we're getting there. First, let me just maybe quote some numbers, and I think this is going to put the whole question into more context. So based on the most recent data that we have from the World Bank, around 60% of Moldovans are financially included, which means there's still 40% of the population that doesn't have access to some basic payment accounts and basic financial services. So first, why bother? Is because I think the financial services are becoming a necessity in today's world, digital financial services as well. And I would actually be really curious on if you have any data on the digital onboarding up to this point. I know maib is very kind of like focused on getting numbers. I think you have, what, about 2 weeks since the program started?
We have around 300 clients already online.
Not bad. So it's functioning. I think it's going to pick up more pace as time goes.
It's functioning, and we are collecting impressions of our clients each day in order to understand what goes wrong, what is not good from customer experience, and we are improving day-by-day service.
So if we go back to why bother with this, well, one, financial inclusion and access to digital financial services, if we look at the kind of like the academic research and global data, it's oftentimes associated with higher GDP growth. I'm saying associated because there isn't necessarily consensus in the academia what leads to what. Meaning, does economic growth lead to better, more advanced financial services, or financial services lead to more economic growth. However, there's a really close correlation. So until the academics solve the debate what's leading to what, we're just going to focus on financial inclusion and financial literacy and digitalization. So again, we are ultimately interested in seeing a vibrant economy in Moldova, because if we look back at the basics, what's fintech? Well, it's finance and technology. Technology is pretty easy to understand why technology leads to economic growth. It's just more productivity, cheaper services. If you look at the finance piece of the puzzle, well, I mean, businesses need finance, consumers need finance. So you put these two together, it means that more opportunities for faster payments, money get faster into your accounts, you can make faster business decisions, which ultimately will inevitably lead to better economic growth. So again, the reason why we are interested in financial literacy, financial inclusion, and fintech is because we strongly believe that this is associated with the faster economic growth. And again, the 40% that are currently excluded in Moldova, they also deserve to be part of this kind of ongoing revolution in the financial services industry.
I mean, I know my answer to this question, but Aliona, someone came up to me at a conference a while ago and just said, why is it that banks think that financial inclusion is some charity thing and they can't make money out of it and therefore they don't want to do it? But I'm guessing that you would say there's an answer to that.
Okay. I will try to say what we are thinking in the bank about that. I think that giving access to finance to population is, in fact, it's something like moving blood in the country, because finances is the macroeconomic. When you have increase, for example, in production of wine, is sectorial, but finance is overall economy. That's why for us, as much as more people get inside financial services, inside the bank, we understand that economy is growing because the blood is moving inside the country. At the same time, for us it's very important that this inclusion is qualitative. What does this mean? If you include people and create services for cash, is one type of quality. But if you include them and give access to cashless, it's totally different. Because in cashless, we speak about transparency, we speak about investing in technology. As much as people transact with each other, based on margins we receive, we can invest more. It's very important for us to have this partnership in creating value. Because if only you as a bank create a service which is just between you and your physical person as a client, it's one story. But if in this partnership you have a merchant, you have a platform on which you transact, you have a government institution where you pay, this network is much higher. And in that case, economy is healthy. So you feel that economic growth is better when you have more people included financially and these people transact with each other in a fast and seamless way. That's why for us in maib it's very important to educate people in a way not to be afraid of making transaction cashless, on using cards, because this gives us possibility to include people in the system and to encourage them to make transaction. Also an important part for us is to invest in trust with the clients. What does this mean? People should be comfortable that security is ensured. That's why a lot of technology we are investing in relates to security of a transaction. For example, recently we launched a Face ID transaction. This is not a Face ID you have on the phone. It's a totally different technology when your face goes to a government institution, checks if it's the same person, checks the liveness of a person is alive, and only after that transaction is approved. This is a partnership. It's between us, it's between a client, between government, because we use data, but this gives totally comfort to the clients to use more services, to be more included, to transact more. This is the general idea we use. Hope I answered the question.
And I guess Vadim and Aliona, you can reply to this question as well, asking you obviously, Eugen. But in many countries and across Europe at the moment, for example, financial inclusion has become quite a high priority because it's seen as something that affects the economy, growth, and equally the poorest people, as I said earlier in my presentation, pay the most for financial transactions because they don't have bank accounts. So is this a regulatory drive? Is the National Bank forcing this on the maib banks and the others? Or is this something that's seen by everyone as a collaboration?
No, of course, it's also collaboration, but with the forcing by National Bank, by banks, by our partners. And for us, the main idea is that we see this like a citizen-centric. We need to understand which problems we can resolve with banking services, with payment service providers, to make citizens' life better. For this we do, not only to make one bank account for citizen. It's not about to create banks accounts. It's about to resolve people problems, to create new services, to make the speed of money faster, cheaper. And this is like solutions to grow the economy, to show people that in Moldova they can live. In Moldova we have services better than in other countries. In Moldova we have potential to create startups in Fintech and go abroad. It's like partnership with a lot of elements, banks, payment service providers, donors, government. It's partnership.
So I think it has to be seen as both kind of, you know, top down and bottom up at the same time. Meaning that sometimes when the sector moves slowly, it's necessary for the regulator, the government to intervene with a little nudge. And I think this is what is happening with some of the initiatives that have been mentioned today, like instant payments, open banking. I mean, these are ultimately driven by the government in a sense to benefit the entire society. But at the same time, this does have a kind of like a domino effect, because at the end of the day, current financial institutions are also the ones that will ultimately benefit from both open banking and instant payments. And I think, you know, like in Moldova we have a saying that the appetite is coming while you eat. As you try to implement these new services and develop new products, banks, fintechs, they realize that they also have, I mean, the services also benefit them. It's not only seen as a regulatory push.
Are there any specific areas or projects, things that have been done in Moldova that you can talk about that will illustrate this? I mean, maybe Aliona, are there any things specifically the bank's done that's changed the game?
You mean related with regulators in
Well,
cooperation?
I'm just thinking of you know, actions. You know, what actions are being taken in Moldova to make a difference?
If to speak recently about recent development we had, it was approving of this law permitting for digital onboarding of a client. This was a very and huge discussed law which expected the whole market. And yes, this was done. And now in cooperation with the central bank, we are looking at the regulatory environment in order to create an environment where clients feel that they are in the center of our attention, but at the same time they do not have barriers in order to get access to services. And this was one of the biggest. Of course, we have a lot of small initiatives which have huge impact, and we are anytime in cooperation with the central bank. But going back to your question, I would like to mention something regarding regulation. In our cooperation, we have, as a bank, a very strong argument. We are in the market because clients are choosing us. So it's very important to remember that everything you are creating, client is in the center. And you can't create something which is comfortable for you as a bank, so you are on the safe side, but it's uncomfortable for client. Considering that, on the second step, we should ensure that we are not only creating value for our customers, but we can preserve part of its value. Why it's important? You can't invest in technology and continue invest in customer trust, customer experience if you don't have money for that. That's why in our cooperation with the central bank and with regulators generally, we are looking for, let's say, invisible hand of a market, which permit us on one side to be in compliance with regulation, on the second side to remember that we are here in order to be the choice of our customers, and on the third part to have enough money in order to continue invest in technology and trust of our customers.
And Vadim, you said it's a process, but are there actual projects or actions or things that are going on to make a difference?
Now we are working together with the central bank on open banking, on introducing these payments, instant payments. We are working with the central bank on improving some access to finance on loans in order to give more access to loans. And we are on a continuous basis working with them on digitalization of some processes because, you know, we like that or not, we have a lot of processes which are not in line with today's trends, and when you start to change something and going to more digital, more seamless, but you have processes which remained on behind, you have to adjust them. That's why this is a continuous process, but the biggest two, these are instant payments and the digital onboarding and KYC update.
Would you like to expand, Vadim?
Once again?
Would you like to expand on what Aliona said in terms of the actions and things that are actually being done to make a difference?
Yeah, the most important that they mentioned is EQC. It is one of keystones to financial inclusion, to access people to banks. And next is what we do is instant payment and open banking. And we do this with partners with the banks, with payment service providers. And here I want to say thank you. I have a possibility to say thank you for partners because it is hard work. We're trying to find the balance between our vision, what citizens need, about our vision, tariffs, how much money it may be, and thank you for understanding that it is different goals, like internal, but the main scope is to take benefits to our citizens. So for this, thank you very much.
And as this conference is all about fintech, and we talked about open banking, banking as a service already this morning a little bit, you know, what role is technology taking to change the landscape? And how do you see fintech, banking as a service, open banking? I mean, maybe Eugen, you could kick that one off.
I'll actually let my colleagues respond to that.
You start. As usual, ladies first. I will try to formulate. We are intensively using fintechs in some of our services because it's impossible to presume that inside the bank we can create everything by ourselves. For example, we are not investing in creating our own chatbots. We are working with external companies. Why we are doing that? Because we want financial education and inclusion. You can't serve 1 million clients if you want to answer by phone. In that case, we are using fintechs. Some of the processes we are doing inside is because my colleagues today maybe talked already, maybe they will come. We went through a significant agile transformation in the bank, and going through that, we understood that we are not behaving now like a very old-style bank, waiting until something will happen. We have already our very agile teams inside which behave in a way like fintechs are doing. And for example, in order to ensure full access to finance, to credit offers, to credit line offers, we developed inside a solution which helps us, like a fintech, to solve the problem of our clients. Of course, there are a lot of other solutions we are using, for example, for cash management. We have a big area for self-services around the country. Why? Because it's the situation that a lot of clients continue to be cash. they have a lot of cash in the country, but you want to give them access to payments, to services. What we are doing? We are using fintech to bring them in the country and to help to collect this cash. And this partnership continues on a permanent basis. Of course, in this partnership, you need to consider regulators on what we are doing, but yes, this partnership exists, and we foster it more and more, depending. Again, I will repeat myself, depending on the client preferences. If clients don't like that, what we can do? We will not use a service just because we like a fintech. We are doing if clients want that service.
I'll try to respond to this question. I think Vadim mentioned a very important point that with kind of like the introduction of electronic know your customer, you pretty much open the opportunity for the 40% that are excluded to easily onboard and become part of the financial infrastructure. If we take a look at our, excuse me, our grandparents in Moldova, I mean, internet penetration is, I don't know, 99%. Probably most people in Moldova have some sort of a smartphone. I mean, my grandparents have Skype accounts, Viber accounts, WhatsApp accounts. So it doesn't make sense for them not to have, you know, a digital bank account. And I think one of the reasons why many of them don't have it or didn't have it up to now is because there weren't very easy onboarding procedures. And there's probably also some trust issues as well. And I think, again, what's going on in Moldova right now, and I'm really excited to see like this innovations come up and be fully implemented next year. I think with these steps that are being taken by the National Bank in its two implementations, I think people will finally have the necessary, you know, the necessary prerequisites are going to be there for people to jump into this digital finance arena so that finally they are fully included and they have access to the entire set of services that's available to the population. And I think I'm going to make a reference here to Brazil. This was one of the business cases that we analyzed together with the National Bank when the National Bank was designing its instant payment system. Brazil has one of the most successful instant payment systems worldwide. It's called Pix. I think last year the number of transactions via Pix exceeded the number of transactions done through the card networks. By the way, at the same time, the number of transactions via the card networks did not go down. This is a very important thing that just shows you that with kind of once you open the door into this easy to use digital financial solutions, you pretty much tap into a new market which was not there before. So I have colleagues from school that are from Brazil, and I was talking to them about Pix, and they said literally today I don't pay the plumber with cash any longer in Brazil. I just send him money via Pix. So again, this is population that was previously excluded, and now you brought them in, and that leads to better inclusion, better protection, because there's traceability. I mean, you can always, if somebody steals cash, well, you're done. If somebody taps into your account, then maybe there's ways you can actually go and
just before I come to you, Vadim, did you also look at UPI?
We did look at UPI as well.
Because
we looked
different.
all
pretty much.
All what
the National Bank did a great job here.
But I have some ideas here. I don't believe that EQAC is like a magic, something magic that all our citizens will do a bank account. Who need, they do. So it's not the biggest problem. I think the biggest problem is to give them solutions to resolve their problems. So in Pix, they have a solution in Brazil how to pay at the beach, because it was no such solution before, because you don't want to take card. Our goal is to see how we can do this with the card scheme, with instant payment scheme, with open banking scheme, what our citizens can take from fintech, because fintech it's only fin and tech, how we told. It's not about rocket science. It's to understanding the real problems and to resolve it with best instrument, with the cheapest instrument for the citizens.
I think just expand, Vadim, maybe one theme, which is whenever we look at offering people financial services of any form, there's risk. And there's risk, obviously, of the citizen losing money, but equally there's risk that this system is abused, which is why we have onboarding, KYC, money laundering rules. What's the mindset of the National Bank around the expansion of the system, the use of technology and the risk involved, and how to regulate that versus to innovate?
Good question. If I understood correctly, how we see it is not a problem in technical. I thought it's about education. Risk it's to educate before when they came to banks. To educate it's in continuous mode. So we have programs in National Bank to educate. Our colleagues has programs. Our partners has programs. It's the main key what we want to create. If I understood the question correctly.
Well, it's more to do with, for example, if you start offering a lot more financial inclusion, potentially people will come onto the system who aren't correctly checked, and therefore they can abuse the system, they can start doing illegal operations. How do you regulate to ensure that doesn't happen?
Okay. We have, it's hard. At like instant payment example, at the start we will have limits, like no more than such money in transaction, no more than such money in monthly transactions. But it's, if you see on the peaks on UP, it is no limits, only night limits. Why? Because at night you can store all money without checking. At the start in Moldova it will be more limits in different things, and biometrical and OTP authorization at every transaction. Maybe not every, maybe we will have some limits. Only these things we can do now.
If I can add something. In fact, regulatory is good, and they need to care about security and so on. But each bank and each financial institution have responsibility for their clients. And of course, considering existing regulation and possibilities, I suppose that each institution need carefully to tackle this issue and ensure that their clients are protected. And of course now, for example, as I said before, and Vadim mentioned, we want to confirm transaction with Face ID, which this transaction will not be corrupted. We understand that this is our client and we need to explain them not to be afraid of making pictures because this is the future. Of course, anti-fraud systems will develop. And we are speaking already to Central Bank how we can put the efforts together in order to ensure that the security of transactions will be ensured. And I really don't believe that we can do anytime the best, because, you know, fraudsters sometimes are a step ahead before us. But anyway, I really believe that we can say only that Central Bank is responsible for security and all others who are waiting to see what will happen. Everybody has full responsibility for trust of their customers, and we will fight for that.
And in terms of the fintech community in Moldova, what contribution is that making? Because I know you mentioned partnerships already, Aliona, but are there any specific examples of any fintechs here that you think are doing interesting things to help?
You know, we have a lot of examples where we use fintechs. It's not one or two, because the bank is really big with really a lot of customers with very different and specific solutions, and we want, at least, we are not doing probably in the full scale, but we want to have a solution for each customer, depending on its lifestyle. Because of that, we use, for example, one of the fintech we use, it's in electronic queue. We have a partner, which is a fintech company, helping us to organize the queue in the branch and making appointments to the branch. It's a very good cooperation, and it brought to us customer experience, because clients are not waiting long in the queues. As I said before, we have a very good intention now on using chatbots. This helps us to serve clients and at the same time to ensure that the time of waiting at the call center is not very long, because there are clients with very specific transactions. They can talk to chat, but if they need people to people, in that case we will address more time with them. We have this cooperation for Face ID. It's also a fintech on the back. It's not internally developed solution. And these cases, solution for cash management, a lot of fintechs, most important is that this cooperation is not just for cooperation. We are coming, as Vadim said before, from the need of our customer. We understand what we want, we start to think it's better inside or outside, and in that case we go for a cooperation with fintechs. And we are open for any cooperation which brings value to our customer.
Can I steal your hat for a second?
Yeah.
Just a quick question. I think, well, truly this, the electronic queue has been a lifesaver for me as a maib client. But, and this is subjective, it might not be necessary, it's more anecdotal, but I think it almost feels like every time I walk into a maib branch, and maybe it's because I walk into a central branch, there are more and more people standing there. Like, do you notice, and do you have any explanation? Because maib is fairly so, it's investing a lot in digital. Why is it that people continue to come in to the branch?
Thank you for question. I was waiting for it. In fact, we have more and more clients. That's true. It's a good problem to have on one side. On the second side, it's very difficult to choose between the behavior when clients feels that you tell him, go away faster because I have the client in the queue, and ensure qualitative, at the same time, a qualitative service. That's why now service time is increasing a little bit. Why? Because what they can do digitally, they are doing digitally, and they are coming to the branch for longer transactions, which need longer consultations. What we are doing now, we are moving more and more our transactions to online, and we are intensively teaching our clients to use our services. But this is a process, and we are struggling each day in order to understand what we can do more. Unfortunately, we have some regulatory issues which bring us to more clients to the branch. For example, need for identification of a client over a minimum limit for exchange of Forex. In that case, we need to stay with the clients, to go through QIC, and only then to serve. And this increases a little bit our time. But it's a good problem to have clients love us.
Thank you.
It's a good problem having too many customers. I hate it when the chair of a panel says questions from the audience. So I'm just going to warn you, I am going to say any questions from the audience after this question. So if you do have anything you want to ask, you can think about it during this question. Because I'm told that USAID has a number of strategic initiatives in Moldova. Can you describe what's going on?
So USAID has a pretty large portfolio in Moldova. I'm only going to touch on the initiatives that are directly related to what we're doing here. So I think first, we are partnering with the National Bank of Moldova in implementation of the instant payment system. The National Bank is about to roll out the instant payment system next year. What we are going to roll out in the next couple of months is a specific funding program or a grant program targeting fintech companies that will develop solutions on top of the instant payment solution, be it on the acquiring side or on the client side and payment processing side. So this is one of the really big things we're going to launch in the next couple of months. The second big thing we're going to launch in the next couple of months is a funding program for fintechs that will be developing open banking related solutions, be it payment initiation or account information service providers. We are seeking ways to leverage in our collaboration with the National Bank and also attract the private sector into it. Another really big thing that we are about to roll out with the National Bank is a nationwide financial literacy campaign. We spoke a lot about financial literacy. At the end of this month, we're going to launch the financial literacy campaign, which hopefully is going to be one of the largest financial literacy campaigns that Moldova has ever seen. So these are some of the really big things that we are in the process of rolling out, and we hope that in partnership with the National Bank of Moldova, other government stakeholders, and the private sector, the necessary prerequisites are going to be formed for a more vibrant fintech ecosystem. Because, and I'd also like to thank the organizers of this event and take this occasion to say thank you. And I also want to challenge the organizers of this event, because one event a year is really nice. and it brings a lot of energy. But we need to have follow-through if we want to see a more vibrant fintech environment and ecosystem. So we need to, and by doing what we're doing, we hope that we're going to support the entire ecosystem and create the prerequisites for kind of a more consistent approach to fintech, constant work with the government. Because let's be honest, the government has a lot of priorities, a lot of competing priorities, which are probably more important than setting up some sort of strategy to support fintech. I mean, there was COVID, there was the war, there was inflation. So, I mean, the government has been acting as firefighters. But if enough pressure is being built from the bottom up, somebody at the government level will say, oh, well, there's an opportunity here. I can probably enable some sort of a strategy or some sort of a policy program to help these companies try to develop better solutions and ultimately get to what Vadim was saying. If we want as much benefit for the economy from fintechs as possible, we can't think only local. We gotta develop, we gotta use Moldova as some sort of a sandbox, and then we gotta export the solutions abroad. This is the only way fintech is truly gonna be a contributor to the GDP of Moldova.
Interesting. I mean, do you want to respond, Vadim, with any further insight on the initiatives that Eugen's outlined?
You know all our initiatives. They help us, but no, about instant payment or open banking, I can talk a lot. We have no such time, but you know, open banking, instant payment will be next year. No? Okay. But we have more initiatives and discussions. One of these is collaboration with the community. Like example, in September, we had a hackathon on Fintech, and it was not created by National Bank, it was created by community, and we was a partner. We gave a sandbox environment for instant payment, for open banking, to show for new guys, for students, for new companies that there is services and you can make something. You can learn how you can do this. It's about tech. Next, we have a lot of discussion internal, what quick wins we can do, what projects. Like example, we had a good discussion about can we use open banking technology to create a bank ID to give possibility to all banks users to use it like SO, like alienation to government services. This is possibility, opportunity, or it's a wrong way. So we have a lot of ideas, and it's only like internal ideas, not only internal ideas. We are working with the market. We ask them, what you want, how we can help you, and this is our role, to help market to grow, to create new fintech startups.
Just out of interest to Aliona, is the bank involved in these developments as well?
Yes, of course. It's a very intensive and very organized cooperation. Because without this, it will not happen. We are in the front of our clients, and we are working with a team from Central Bank even on customer journeys and customer how seamless will be the operation. Because if it's will not be comfortable, clients will not accept it. And if clients will not accept it from the very beginning, they will not accept it later. It will not happen. And going back to what we are trying, I want to say that we are very happy that already exists some, let's say, situation when central bank permits us to have like sandbox inside the bank, and we are testing something. This gives us possibility also to develop and to create. It's impossible to create something from the beginning. You need to test. And now we have this more and more options that depending on the level of maturity and on confidence central bank obtains in processes, internal processes, understanding of the security of everything else, we have sometimes possibility to be used as sandbox for some technologies in the bank. And this is a huge cooperation with central bank team.
Interesting, and just because you touched on it, Eugen, before I come to the audience, private sector contribution, I mean, the private sector involvement in all of this?
Well, we're seeking for partners in the private sector, and we hope that we are going to be able to forge some really strong partnerships. And ultimately, again, as I already said, I think the push for something at the national level can come from a bottom-up approach. When the private sector comes together around a specific issue or a specific problem, and then it forces the government to kind of act on it to make a change for a more sustainable financial sector.
So the private sector is forcing the National Bank to change its policies?
In a good way.
In a good way. I did say I'd come and ask a question from the audience, so does anyone have something they wanted to ask? Or you just prefer to sit and let me ask questions? Or you want your lunch?
Definitely.
Well, let's move towards conclusions because no one's raising hands. And it's interesting for me because every country has a different culture. In some countries, everybody wants to speak. In other countries, they don't. So Moldova, I'll take it that you're more the latter. Let's come to some conclusions. Where are we going with all of this? And Vadim, I guess you're instrumental in the future of the country and where things are going. How do you see the landscape over the next 5 years and how things will develop?
5 years.
I'm always asking you the easy questions.
Okay, it's 5 years. No, it's too much. Okay, of course, instant payment will be the main payment service for microtransactions. It will be a big changes in how we pay, how we transfer money. It will be no microbuses from Italy with money from our guys. It will be all with SEPA transfers. It will be all online with low cost, and SEPA Instant will be in 5 years, of course. And I believe we will have a unicorn in Fintech. I believe that here is companies, or will be companies with maybe not 1 billion, maybe 10 billions, and it will be a huge example that you can do this in Moldova. You can do something here in Fintech that can be scalable to other countries, because like open banking, it's the same technology. You can use it in different countries, in Europe, in Saudi. So something like this, it's not too much, but feasible.
Same question, Eugen, and you can just say same as Vadim, or you can...
No, Vadim truly stole my line. I meant to say that we are going to have a unicorn in 5 years. No, but seriously, I think the next 5 years we are going to see a very vibrant private sector, and I think we're going to see a lot of solutions because the rails are there, and the government is doing a good work, and the National Bank in particular, to provide opportunities. And I think with the involvement from the existing private sector, with the involvement of programs like ours, I think we are going to see some really, really innovative solutions come out of that. One other thing that I would also venture to say that over the next 5 years, I hope that we will finally manage to come together to a consensus to what fintech is. Because I think fintech is many things to many different people and parties. But in order to craft a very efficient nationwide policy on fintech, we need to have a consensus, and we need to build this consensus both among the government and the private sector, because based on the definition of fintech, you can identify what are the problems that fintechs face, and then you can design intervention, government intervention. So I think, again, in the next 5 years, with hopefully the number of fires that the government needs to fight will go down, and the government will have spare resources to actually think more broadly about this and provide even more support. Because although we do appreciate the leadership from the National Bank of Moldova, I don't think I've seen a country where the regulator is the main driver of fintech transformation. Because the regulator, by definition, has a different mandate. And again, the regulator can provide the rails, but policy and strategy needs to come from the government side, because the government is the one that can decide how
public resources are being allocated to specific government or specific strategies and programs. So again, in the next 5 years, I hope we're going to get consensus on that as well.
Yesterday I was at a very nice event, and speaking about the prediction, the speaker said that it's very difficult to predict for 5 years because it's the most strict prediction. You will see the result. And it's very easy to see it in 100 years. That's why I will try to do for 5 years. And I will, as Mens already said it very concrete, I will add a little bit of emotional part. I believe that in 5 years, clients will not feel barriers. They will exist, but they will not feel them. Independently, it will be a regulatory barrier or internal process barrier. It will be a seamless process. That's why probably most of clients, of people included financially, will be probably cashless, and it will not be one-click payment, but probably zero-click payment. And probably people who will do repetitive transaction and more or less automatic, they will be online. But in the branches will exist people, like for Eugen, in order person to meet person, because it's important to maintain human contact. And I want to believe that in such an environment, client will continue to be in the center of our attention in order to ensure the best customer experience, and not somewhere only in the region, but maybe worldwide, because I believe the technologies are not already regionalized, they are somehow global. And I really want to think that we can offer that in Moldova.
I have one more. After our colleagues, I have one more. In 5 years, no, I believe it will be faster, but I think...
I was not asked for faster, I was asked for 5 years, that's why I answered.
In 5 years, we will listen each other and hear each other better, because it's the example when we create something together, it's better than when we create this alone. So my idea is that in 5 years, we will be a better team, because we are a Moldova team, and this is like my goal, to make it a collaboration and hear and listen to each other and you better. Thanks.
Just out of interest, Aliona, do you think in 5 years the bank will still have the same, more or less branches?
Thank you.
They have beautiful branches.
More branches. More? I don't know. It depends on type of branch. What do you mean by branch? If you mean a place where they can get some assistance, maybe. It depends. But what I know for sure, that way will be different. Now we have cashiers collecting cash, but maybe in the future we have consultants who help clients to understand some transactions. I know for sure that people will meet people when they want to meet people, and they will speak to machines when they need to speak to machines. But we can't now force people very aggressively to go digital, because in that case it will be resistance. That's why we will see. Now, at the moment, we see that 60% of our clients are already transactioning online. And it's not a process that it's a belief that you think that you are doing that or that. You are looking at the customer behavior, what they are doing, and we are taking decisions. And these decisions are agile. You need every time to think about them. But maybe it will be more, maybe it will be less. Depends on type of branches.
You're hedging your bets.
Just in case.
Just in case. Well, I think on that, I'd like to just say thank you very much for the conversation. I really enjoyed it. And I think you all gave fantastic insights into not just inclusion, but fintech and where the country stands right now. Thank you very much to our panelists. And it's time for lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you.